Pro Football Talk Live continues on this Thursday morning, and Wednesday morning brought an unexpected report from the Washington Post about the Washington football team. Now, last month's item from the Washington Post was much anticipated, to the point where there was so much ridiculous over-the-top speculation about what the Washington Post would be reporting that Daniel Snyder has filed a couple of different legal actions aimed at getting justice for how crazy some of the allegations were.
Yeah, which
this time around, it just came out of nowhere.
Right.
Another 25 on top of the original 15 former female employees of the Washington NFL franchise claiming they were sexually harassed during their time there. The culture, the picture that's being painted gets worse and not better. And Chris, for the first time, because last time around, Daniel Snyder, the owner of the team, remained unscathed.
Yeah.
This time around, two different incidents directed at him.
Right.
One, an allegation that back in 2004, he said to a team cheerleader, "Why don't you go up to the hotel room we have and get to know my friend better, wink, wink, nod, nod." He denies that in a separate statement that was issued. And an allegation that there were, and it's almost comical that Larry Michael, the vice president of the team, who was the top media person within the organization, who abruptly retired one day before the last article came out.
Right.
That he allegedly had the video staff prepare outtakes from a photo shoot for the making of the team cheerleader calendar, and the outtakes were revealing with nudity, and the outtakes were put together allegedly, supposedly, for Snyder and or the executive team. So Snyder is now caught up right in the middle of this thing. And it's alarming. It's disturbing.
Yep.
And I really want to know what happens next, because the idea that a lawyer hired last month by Daniel Snyder to investigate Daniel Snyder's business and ultimately to investigate Daniel Snyder when he hired the lawyer and he's writing the checks, that's not good enough. And the league so far is going to defer to the investigation that Daniel Snyder has bought and paid for. And that, to me, Chris, is mind-blowing.
Oh, that's like we're in Crazyville. I don't even understand. It makes no sense to me. I mean, none. Like, absolutely none. With the NFL, it just shows you that there's a different, benchmark or, line drawn in the sand for the owners as compared to the players, and what's acceptable and what's not acceptable, and here's a little wiggle room, and that always pisses me off. Yeah, we're going to hold the players accountable for everything, but us, upper echelon guys, we're going to be able to kind of do whatever we want, and yeah, we'll get slapped on the hand, but we'll just keep going from there. I mean, that makes no sense. I don't understand how the NFL can get involved in this. Obviously, there's dysfunction there with the Washington franchise, with all that's going down, over the last year, all these recent stories. And, regardless of, it does seem like this is a premeditated hit job on Daniel Snyder. I'll say that much. Like, somebody has been very calculated about what they're doing here to Daniel Snyder. But when you have this amount of female employees come out to say stuff like that, that's hard to swipe under the rug or look at it like it's a hit job. There was obviously something wrong with the culture there for these women to be coming forward and saying this right now. So very troubling. Don't understand the NFL stance at all. Somebody is out to get Daniel Snyder. There's no doubt about that. And you're right where, some of the stories we heard last month and things like that, they were crazy. So I understand him being pissed off too. But either way, this is not a good look for him and a continuing struggle for this Washington franchise.
And see, here's the thing. If you're going to take on the people who publish the crazy over-the-top stories about you in an effort to expose whoever it is that is behind it all, and it doesn't take a lot of brain power, which qualifies both of us, to address this. It doesn't take a lot of brain power to come to the conclusion that Daniel Snyder believes one of his minority partners, specifically Dwight Scharr, is some way caught up in it, and they're trying to prove it through the court system. But here's the thing. If your hands aren't clean, if there is something that you've done that can be proven in some context that you did it, stand down. Don't go guns blazing legally after your pursuers, because they have something to pursue. Just because they went too far in one area, allegedly or possibly or whatever actually can be proven, if there are other skeletons out there that are going to bring you down, it doesn't make sense to try to pick that fight in court.
You
now,
be
again,
careful.
Daniel Snyder,
right.
He denies the allegations. He issued a statement yesterday characterizing the Washington Post article as a hit job. In a pejorative sense, obviously, that they're out to get him and that it's not true and that they're relying upon anonymous sources. And, there are some people on the record. There are.
Yeah.
Former employee. Brian Baker is the name of the individual who will tie the outtakes of the cheerleader calendar video shoot to Larry Michael and then to Daniel Snyder. So not everybody's anonymous. But, and here's the other problem, Chris.
Yeah.
I'll circle back to the independent investigation because I want people to understand what really goes on in a truly independent investigation and when the NFL does and doesn't use one. But we're getting mixed messages now from the team. You get a statement from Snyder issued yesterday basically decrying this effort to take him down.
Yeah.
Via the Washington Post's latest article exposing further allegations of sexual harassment. And then the team issues a statement saying, please, anyone out there who feels that they have wrongly been treated either in the past or currently, please come forward and tell us about it. Well, if you're somebody who currently works for the team or used to work for the team and is contemplating doing something about it, even if it is simply reporting it to the team now after years of not feeling like there was anywhere to go because, number one, the human resources staff was woefully understaffed at the franchise, and number two, the entire atmosphere creates the impression that they just don't care anyway. What do you do when you have Daniel Snyder basically saying it's all fake news and you have the team saying it's not? We want to fix this. That to the average person is going to cause confusion at a minimum. And at worst, it's going to cause the person to say, no, I'm not going to waste my time trying to make this right, trying to make this complaint, because the guy who ultimately writes everyone's paycheck is saying it's all fake.
Yeah. Well,
so I don't give any credence to what the team officially says.
Well, no, I mean, you're right. It's hard to do that with the current environment and things that are going on. Now, I think the Washington team, the football team, is trying to give a proactive look to their franchise and the organization to say, hey, look, I know we haven't been perfect, and obviously there's some people out there that are not happy with us, and we'd like to fix that. So I think they're trying to show like some good faith within that. But you're right, it kind of gets totally, what I want to say, just X'd out or crossed out a little bit when the owner is saying, it's a hit job and there's all these issues. Listen, there was obviously people not happy under the employment, of the Washington football team, and there was issues there. So he's trying to confront that. Now, is Daniel Snyder like, the model, owner and American citizen? I don't know about that either. I've been around the guy a few times. Listen, and do I think he could be a jerk? Certainly, yes. Do I believe and look at all these stories and believe them? No, not right away. Just as a human being and being around him, I go, that doesn't seem like that guy. But you never know. I know that, and I never know. And I'm not trying to make any excuse. I've been around a lot of, I never thought that guy would do that, and he did something where, so you never know. I'm not trying to make any excuse, so don't. So we'll see where it goes. But you're right. It's two different messages being sent down on the same day.
But I'm glad you put it that way, because that makes it even more important that there be a proper investigation.
Yeah.
And here's the fundamental problem with the franchise hiring Beth Wilkinson, an accomplished corporate defense lawyer who has represented big money corporations when they have been sued for millions, if not billions, of damages, fighting back those plaintiffs' lawyers to try to protect the corporate coffers. She is hired by Daniel Snyder to investigate the team, and now that investigation necessarily encompasses Daniel Snyder. Look, it's been more than a decade since I practiced law, but I recall fairly clearly the rules of professional conduct. And as a lawyer, you have a duty to your client. Basically, and to put it as simply as possible, you have a duty to not throw your client under the bus. Beth Wilkinson is incapable, under the rules of professional conduct that are uniform throughout the country. She's incapable of engaging in a truly unbiased and independent investigation that could lead to the conclusion that Daniel Snyder did what he did. She is going to be wired to go in there and, under the guise of an investigation, shape the evidence in a way that would make it easier for her to present it in court if and when they're sued. And they very well may be sued. There was a statement yesterday issued through the office of Gloria Allred. She isn't showing up on the scene of this potential crime, not crime, but you get my point, because she's got nothing better to do. If Gloria Allred's there, that means somebody's getting sued, right?
Right.
So Beth Wilkinson, as she does her investigation, and I've been involved in these situations before, it's a tough, delicate minefield through which to walk, and you eventually get to a point where you say, I can't do it because I'm going to be the one that's called upon to defend you, and you're paying me. I can't make this public report that says you're a scoundrel and you did all these things. I can't do it. That's why there needs to be an independent investigation. Mike. That's why the NFL needs to step up and do it. And, Chris, they've done it before. They did it a few years ago with Jerry Richardson.
Well, I
when
know.
The Panthers owner was in trouble. They had an independent lawyer who investigated it.
Right.
And it's amazing to me that the league won't do it.
Well,
They're deferring to the lawyer that Snyder hired.
That's why I wanted to ask you, because, I mean, you have the good Italian gut for this type of stuff. Like, what would be... What, in your mind, your logic, Mike Florio, your gut feeling, what would be the reason you think the NFL wouldn't hire the independent investigator to this point? Like, that's what I don't understand. I don't even get the logic behind it. It doesn't look good publicly. It doesn't make sense. And, yeah, it's doing nothing good for the Shield, at least from my assessment. So that's where what's your thought there? Why?
I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Right.
I mean, here, let's apply Occam's razor.
Yeah.
Right?
Sure, whatever that is.
And yeah, Occam's razor is the principle that the simplest explanation is usually the most accurate.
Gotcha.
The simplest explanation may be the NFL's got its hands full with other stuff right now. Yeah. The last thing the NFL wants to worry about right now in this age of COVID-19 and trying to get through a football season is whatever may happen with the Washington Football Organization. That's not an acceptable explanation. I'm just trying to understand why they would not bring in an independent lawyer to handle this. Another explanation is, hey, they recommended Beth Wilkinson to the franchise. Beth Wilkinson has done work for the league before, and of course that creates a potential conflict of interest if the league ever moves on Daniel Snyder and tells him you're going to sell, and Daniel Snyder says, no, I'm not. I'll see you in court, Al Davis style. That's going to put Beth Wilkinson in a tough spot. But, they want to trust that she's going to be able to do a truly... And they can say, oh, she's tough. She's a bulldog. She'll go in there and she'll get everything she needs. And it's whatever she finds and however she presents it, it's still not going to be as candid and damning as it would be if it was somebody who was truly independent, who didn't care whether or not the person who hired them feels like they've been betrayed by the lawyer they hired.
Yeah.
That's the problem. That's why it's so obvious to me. It's not difficult. I respect Mike Silver of NFL Network, i.e. of the NFL, i.e. his paycheck is signed by Roger Goodell, who came out last night on Twitter and said, this isn't difficult.
Right.
The investigation must be independent. And it must be. And I don't get it. And yeah, Chris, I'm dumbfounded as to why they won't do it. And you know what? What Washington has done, if this is the new precedent, the blueprint for any other team that finds itself in any way, shape, or form teetering toward the brink of trouble, go hire your own lawyer to do the investigation before the league can. I mean, wouldn't the Saints have loved to have done that with the bounty scandal?
Yeah.
Wouldn't the Dolphins have loved to have done that with the bullying scandal? Wouldn't the Patriots have loved to have done that with Deflategate? Wouldn't Richardson have loved to have done that with his own issues? I think he was still out the door anyway. But this, now that Snyder, and that's what was so confusing about the statement from Roger Goodell yesterday. The first paragraph of Roger Goodell's statement said everything it needed to say. These are unacceptable accusations. This is not indicative of who we are. Unprofessional, disturbing, and abhorrent behavior and workplace environment alleged in the report, entirely inconsistent with our standards and has no place in the NFL. Good, fine, perfect. End it there. Because the next paragraph gives Daniel Snyder the pathway to escaping responsibility for it by letting the lawyer he has bought and paid for continue the investigation. And, look, and it's, when I criticize the NFL, sometimes people say, you hate the NFL. No, I love the NFL. I love professional football. I want professional football to thrive. I want it to be respected. I want it to be successful. And when things like this happen that make me scratch my head and say, what the hell are they doing?
Yeah.
I feel it's our obligation
to stand up
and
tell
say,
it's a flaw. We like you, NFL. Fix this flaw.
Emperor, you're butt naked on a horse. Put some clothes on.
Right. Exactly right. That's what we do. We don't sit here doing it to talk about, the NFL and be negative and all those things. Yeah, we're just bringing up questions, thoughts, whatever it may be. Please fix this, NFL. We love you. That's all we're trying to do here. Yes, and I don't know. I don't get it. But, Mike, at the base level, I think you're right, where it's just there's so many things on the NFL's plate right now. They're just like, okay, hey, we like this investigator. Let her go down and figure this out. And, yeah, we'll talk to her on the phone and see what she finds out, and we'll go from there. Between COVID-19 and, of course, the social injustice issues, maybe the NFL is overwhelmed with just trying to figure things out right now.
Excellent point, too, Chris, that you've reminded me of. If Beth Wilkinson continues this investigation, and with now 40 former employees and counting who claim they were sexually harassed, when Beth Wilkinson calls up and says, I'm the lawyer hired by Daniel Snyder to investigate this situation, are they going to cooperate with her? Right? But if somebody calls up and says, I'm the lawyer that's been hired by the NFL to do a truly independent investigation, and I am not in any way beholden to Daniel Snyder, and I am not working for Daniel Snyder, I'm working for the NFL, and I'd like you to answer some questions, will you do it? The person is far more likely to cooperate with that lawyer than with Beth Wilkinson, who has no subpoena power. She cannot make any of the former employees cooperate with her investigation, which limits it out of the gates. Because if I'm a former employee of the team, and if there are any former employees out there who are thinking about what they should or shouldn't do, let me tell you this as your unofficial counsel. Don't talk to Beth Wilkinson. Don't cooperate with the investigation that's being bought and paid for by the team, because everything you say is going to be filtered through the lens of making it as good as it can be for the team or minimizing the negative impact for the team. There needs to be an independent investigation. Of all the things I've felt strongly about over the years, Chris, as it relates to the way the NFL handles its business, this is the one. Of everything else, and my record is out there, it's open, we've talked about all these issues, we've offered our thoughts, this is the one I feel the most strongly about.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.